Shut up and sit down.
Right. Let's start building the Revell bus. Going to be doing things a little bit differently in this one. Normally, I'll be cutting off bits and pieces as we go from the screws, sanding them, but I think a lot of you already know how to do that. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be pre-cutting everything off of these and then building the sub-assemblies with a group of parts that I've already cut off. So all of the sanding and cutting and that I'm going to eliminate from these videos on this sequence. It just saves a little bit of time. So sprue number 8 is what I'm going to be starting with. I tend to mark these up with a Sharpie so that I can easily identify the sprues. So I'll just cut these off beforehand, and I'll be doing that throughout this build. So I should just come on screen with a little pile of parts, give you a brief idea of where we're at on the instructions, and get some serious assembly going. So, and by magic. Let's get the engine together then. Test fit. Seems to fit okay. Alright. Do the old extra thin. Yeah. So, dab in there. Dab in there. Straight along there. Bit along the top. This stuff is really good though, because it, through the capillary reaction, goes along the seams really well and penetrates, but I still like to just go a little bit overboard because a lot of this gets covered, and I always prime everything, so if you do get overruns with glue, you don't need to really worry because you're going to prime it anyway. So we've got this little cover. Now on the instructions you'll see a tiny little back plate that goes on there. Just there. And it is that piece that goes in. So, a little fiddly, can get forgotten very easily, that bit. So I'm locking it in now so that I don't forget it. A little bit OTT on the glue there, but again, these can only go one way. So that'll sit on there, something like that. Yeah. There or thereabouts, should we say. Being that sits so nicely, it's going to be rude not to whack that in place. But already on the engine I'm seeing seams I don't like, so I will be sorting them out later in the build. But at this moment in time it's just getting everything together. Like so. And you find when you're doing these that sometimes the builds can go really quick. So you can achieve a hell of a lot in a very short time. So that's literally a press fit, so I'm not even going to bother gluing that, because I've got a feeling when it comes to painting that I'll probably pop that back off, paint the block, and then go around and do the individual components. So for now, at least I know where the part is. I'm not going to lose it, so I'll shove it on there. So it's just a matter then of looking for where bits go on this. Things like a few bumps and things, so we get to know where they all are. I used to love these buses as a child. There's still a couple doing nostalgic routes up in London. I don't know, something about the old Routemaster. He used to just gun it along the road after the thing. He'd be clinging on for dear life off the pole on the back. Oh dear, looking for a fast approaching corner just in case the driver took it a little too hard and you went flying off the back end of the bar. But happy memories, I must admit. They are very happy memories of the old Routemasters doing the rounds. But they're not seen now. Yeah, it's like anything. Technology changes, laws change, health and safety went mad. People deemed them dangerous, but I certainly think for ease of use, the public miss them. Up there, they certainly are missed. Because, like I say, they were easy. You just all run along, hopped on, paid your money to the ticket man, and jump back off when you're done and dusted. So yeah, they were good buses. Some are still about, but not very many of them now. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for progress, I'm all for change. Change is a good thing. If we didn't change, the wheel wouldn't have been invented, would it? Let's be honest. So, the world's progressed, the times have changed, but I'm quite nostalgic about certain things, and like I say, when I got wind that these had been released by Revell, I kept my eye on it. Sort of had a look online at a few builds that I'd seen of people's Routemasters, and there's some really good builds out there that people have done. But I think I've said it before, I'm a bit of a fussy old fart for things looking a certain way and detail and stuff. And I kept putting off getting one of these because at the time I was having a bit of a setback, should we say, health-wise. And I just didn't think that I would be up for doing one at that moment in time. And as time's gone on, I've seen more and more of them, and thought, now's a good time to have a go at one whilst I can. So that's why I'm doing this now, because whilst you can do stuff like this, there you go. It's good therapy. I've mentioned that before. It's good therapy. You just get on, go about your business, do your thing, get your builds done, and have a good time doing it. That's what this is about. It's a great hobby. A lot of people think we're children that never grew up. Well, perhaps they're right. But as you get older, you remember nostalgically bits about when you was a nipper. For me, I used to spend hours sort of sat at a little desk building. Back then, very basic little model kits, but as a child you felt such a sense of achievement for doing it. And I sort of, I wouldn't say lost interest, but never really had the opportunity to get round to doing them in the early 20s. Kids came along, started a family, house, that sort of thing, and work commitments, etc. at the time were a lot different. So I never really got back into it until a couple of years ago, really. The good old internet served up a fella. I sat and watched his stuff and thought, I might go out and get myself a couple of kits. So had another bash at building them, because things change, things are different. Certainly the equipment is a lot different to what you had as a child. Half this stuff didn't exist. You had a tube of humbrol cement that you used to squeeze the living daylights out of to get any glue out of things. 9 times out of 10 it went everywhere except for on the part you was trying to glue. So you didn't have the tools, the equipment, the modern adhesives bring a whole new opportunity really to the quality of your model making, because they allow you to do stuff that you wouldn't have done before. But that's coming along nicely. Bit of detail work to be done on that to try and weather it, because it's like anything. I don't build stuff so that it looks new. This is a bus that would have been used time and time and time and time again. It would have been in and out of London transport workshops, getting all kinds of work done on it. So it would have had different bits and bobs added over the years. Dare I say it, the odd slightly dubious mechanics repair. So that's what I'm going for. A bus that's being used, abused, worked on, bodged. Various brush bits of paintwork that would have been hand brushed because the mechanic couldn't be bothered to take it off and paint it. So it's not going to be a factory finish, because nothing is. At the end of the day, there ain't anything out there. You buy your brand new motor, within 6 months it's an old banger. Because they get used and abused. So that's what I'm going to be doing with this. It'll be an honest looking piece of work. There's going to be a few little surprises on it, which I hope you all will like. To be honest with you, some of the bits I'm taking a bit of a gamble on. But it's like anything, some of the stuff I've never done on a kit before. So it's as new to me as it is for you guys. If it inspires you to follow the lead, then the job is a good one. Actually, it's a nice little kit to bunk together, to be honest with you. I've not had no fitment issues or anything yet. So, props for that. Mr. Revell. Got going on there. Like so, a nice little resounding squeak there as that went in. A little bit of glue can go in there. Like so, and that. With a bit of luck, goes straight in there. A fair old bit of gubbins there, isn't it? Great English words, gubbins. I love that word. There you go. That's where the old cocktail sticks come in handy. Little nudge-a-rooney there to get out where I want it. Like that. Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Cannot believe I've just made engine noises already. Flywheel cover's got to go on as well. That just sits on there. So give that a bit of a glow, like so. And that is all of that. Done. So the two below you ignore unless you're building the Scania engine. But that there is the first stage for me of the Leyland motor. So I'm going to let that have a dry-a-rooney just to keep that nice and stable, and I will then go on to the next stage. It's not a bad little engine, that. Again, there's room for doing some detail work around here, weathering. Yeah, a little bit bronze on the list. There you go, that's better. Let's get that in place. Done. Put that to one side to dry. And then we've got all the chassis sections. So I should be cutting all of those pieces off the sprue. Same with all of those. Right the way down to the engine assembly going in. Okay, so let's pause for a little second whilst I go and cut all of those, sand them all, and then we'll start the next stage. So we've got these bits cut off and we're going to be doing this section now, which is the floor of the bus, putting in prop shaft, the front wheel hubs, exhaust shields, then moving on to the chassis rails, rear axle, another part of the exhaust, and the same with the rear chassis, various pipes and bits and pieces. I'm not going to be putting on the mud flaps until the wheels are on, purely and simply because when you spin this around to do work on the first level, there's a risk that you're going to smash off the mud flaps, so I'm not going to do them yet. Okay, once everything is assembled onto this, this will then go off and get a coat of silver, similar to the engine there. The engine itself has had a single coat of silver. A tiny little wash has been put on there for now, and I'll build that up in layers to get the effect I'm after. So first things first, let's have a look at what we've got to go on. These have all been sanded, any seams have been removed, so they're pretty much ready to go into situ. Okay, so without further ado, we can get some assembly done. So I tend to do these by spinning it upside down and going through from behind to get these to bite. Trying to glue right underneath is quite a bind, so I find it's just as easy, considering that this is all going to be concealed anyway. It just gets things in situ, roughly where I want them to be. So we're lucky enough that Revell are pretty good with their mouldings, etc., because these pieces really do just drop straight into where you want them to go. So I pretty much do as they say on the tin, should we say. Let's just drop that back on. Saying that, there you go. So we're happy that the first couple of bits are going on. There is a little bit of old-fashioned modelling to do in one section, which is the hubs. You basically warm up the end of a flat blade screwdriver onto this tab and just press it down into place when it comes to putting on that piece, which which is your steering arms. So, me being me, I'm bound to conspire to mess this up somehow. So I'll just spin that around the way, just so that I can see where the hub is going to go. That I have the right side, isn't it? Let's just have a little move around of some of these pieces just to give myself a bit of room. So you guys can see what I'm actually doing. This bus is quite huge, so trying to get everything into shot for you is a little bit of a challenge. So apologies if the camera wobbles or I go out of shot for a little while. It's just I'm trying to maneuver stuff where it needs to go so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So they're resting in place for the time being, and then I can put on the whole of the front, or the whole of the chassis rail like so. Okay. So we're pretty much happy-ish. Before that goes in, I just want to make sure that I can access to get the exhaust pipes in place, because I've got a feeling that these need to go on first before the chassis rail. So I'm just gonna see whether I'm right in my thinking on that bad boy, because once it's in place, the chassis rail, you're not going to be able to thread parts through. So I'm just looking at the instructions to the one side, and now I can see that that would have been quite an awkward task to get that all in place with the chassis rail in situ. Put one of my little friends on there. Just off camera is the closed peg grippers that I use. To get things held just so that as I'm spinning things around it doesn't all fly apart. You know, it does what it should do. I do believe in getting things fitted so that they don't have too many large things. We can always go back after and tidy up things that aren't as we'd like them to be. Go along now that this is beginning to sit where I want it to. I'm literally going to just put some grippers in place before I actually put any glue on, just so that I'm happy where things are settling down before I actually go for the final glue stage on that. So that will go right the way along there. And I can really get a nice tight fit in there. So we get another clamp on there. holds all of that in place for us, so that we can get some extra fin right along there. Whack another clamp on there. That's the thing where the kits are such a large scale. You do find that you do a lot more clamping than perhaps you would on a smaller kit. On a smaller kit, you can probably just hold it with your fingers. But at something of this scale, you know, you'd need hands like Pat Jennings, you know, the goalkeeper, you know, because no matter how good you are, you can't get your fingers where they all are, where every piece is trying to be held under pressure. You can't always get your fingers in there, see. So I'm now ready to come round that corner. Because that's going to be clamped and held now. So all the way along there, like so. It is a really well made kit, this one. I don't know what I was expecting, really. Some people have said it's a little bit of a bind to put together, but so far I've not found that to be the case. Perhaps I'm lucky. But I find with plenty of grippers and plenty of planning and a little bit of thinking ahead on this, you can pretty much get the thing together quite rapidly. It's one I'm looking forward to weathering, I must admit. I've already had some thoughts on what I want to do to this particular section, with copper pipes and various bits of detail, a little bit of rust, a little bit of road dirt. Not too much, because London Transport at the end of the day did keep their buses really well maintained and clean. So you're not going to have a bus that's smothered in dirt, mud and stains on the outside, because they used to go back to the yard every night and go through the bus wash. So the bodywork used to always look pretty damned clean, ready for its morning routes. So I can't honestly say that I would have expected their buses to look anything other than pretty damned spotless. But underneath, you know, you're going to have your usual culprits, which are exhaust systems that get a bit of rust on them and things like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing on this build. You know, a bit of rust on the silencer box and some of the joints on the exhaust. Nothing too major, nothing overboard, but you know, I might be able to give you a few little tips as we go on some of the techniques that I use that work for me when I do my builds, and they might work for you guys as well. So you know, we can learn these things together. Okay, so quick little dry fit on that lets me know that I'm thinking along the right lines on how this goes together. So without further ado, a load of super thin on there, or extra thin, whatever you want to call it, just to get this to bite where I want it to. Again, I shall go around with the glue afterwards, just to pick up any little stray bits that might not have gone where they need to. But this does look as if it's pretty straightforward with its joining capabilities. So I've not had to bring out the heavy duty stuff yet with this. Saying that, I could do with a clamp just in there. To hold that piece down, and I think I'll do on the other side as well, because that is quite an important part of the kit. So I kind of want it to stay in place. One thing I have noticed when they've made this is they've forgotten the mount for the paniard arm. Basically, it's the metal beam that comes from the rear axle and joins to the bodywork, which is this piece. See, that's floating inside a space, floating in mid-air. You know, that would be attached to a bracket on the chassis here. So I'm going to make up a little bracket that will come around in two L shapes, just to, you know, give it a little bit of authenticity. You know, it's not major, but you know, I think it just little details like that do make a kit come alive. You know, it's probably never going to be seen by anyone, but I know it's there. It'll bug me if I don't do anything with it. So I'm kind of in a no-win situation on that one, because the modeler in me is saying it's not quite right. So whilst it's at this stage of the build, it's quite easy for me to get a little bit of styrene. Once this is dry, use a tiny little piece of card as a template, and knock up a little quick bracket and glue it in and weather it, and it just gives a little bit more realism. But we're going together nicely now, so you know, everything gets a huge dollop of glue, you know, because it's all going to be weathered. So I don't really need to be too worried about glue spills at this stage, because like I say, I'm going to be doing quite extensive weathering underneath and just little things to bring the kit to life in my eyes. Just to give it a little boost. So that's coming together nicely. So They say to bend them tabs over on that front steering, but dare I say it, it's not actually moving. So part of me says leave it alone. So we are now at the stage of all of these little components, teeny canisters and things that sit underneath for compressed air and any other fluids, hydraulics, whatever these things are. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on buses, I'm not. I've got my little Routemaster book. Absolute godsend, I must admit. So if you are building one of these, I would recommend perhaps trying to get hold of a copy. The Routemaster Enthusiasts book is a Haynes. Almost like a Haynes manual on Routemasters is the best way of describing it. Pardon me. Bit of spider pig for you. But in there is a lot of reference material that you can look at and assess. And it just gives you a scope that perhaps you wouldn't otherwise have for this build. And I must admit, I found it very, very valuable tool to have. So I'd grab yourself a copy of it, to be honest with you. Let's figure that out. I'm sure that's how that goes. Just like that. Strange little, weird little pipe there, isn't it? But it obviously does a job. Answers on a postcard, please, as to what the job is. Because I have absolutely no idea what that pipe is. Probably bus enthusiasts going out there saying it's easy, it's one of these, it's one of those, it's one of these. You're talking to a bloke who's a passenger. A passenger with a smile on his face, I must admit. As builds go, this is a seriously nice nice kit. Just grab that to get you in place, like so. It would help guide you around the right way, wouldn't it? Lettuce. These things are sent to test you. Right. The simple things in life. What else have we got under there? I do believe that's it on that. Tanks, pipes, exhausts, prop shaft, rear rail, rear chassis, rear differential, exhaust pipes. Yep, and the only thing not going on is the mud guards. So, yep, I can safely say that that little section is pretty much ready to just leave to dry. In between the next section, this will go and be airbrushed, and I'll do a base coat on silver to start. then when we next visit that section, I'll be there with the detail brushes, just bringing things to life a little bit for you. Began the modifications on the driver's cab. This is taped together at the moment, just to give me an idea on what else I need to do for this sliding door section, not on building. Various little bits I've got to modify on this kit as we go along, and there's no time like the present really to start that process. By having it taped together, I can actually put everything together, work out the amount of space that the door needs to slide, and go from there. Once that's done, then we'll see what the end result looks like. So I'm looking forward to a little bit more playing with that. Again, the engine will be ready to go in place once that's had its coat of paint. That'll just drop in place, and then its internal floors and wheels, get a start on them and get them painted. So we'll have a rolling chassis pretty shortly, and then it's going to be then back onto the detail work for the cab, which is what I showed you just now, which is that section. So all kinds of fun to be had with that. So I'm going to pause there to get all the bits and pieces cut, ready to assemble the next stage, and we can continue to build.